standard for young girls to know how to cook.
Mm-hmm.
It was a standard at one time for young girls to know how to sew, how to clean. At one time, those things were taught in the public school system, home economics.
Right.
But due to whatever budget cuts in our political system, those things are no longer taught.
Right.
Unfortunately, due to the trends in society, more times than not, the mother is now taken out of the home to either work or due to other unfortunate circumstances, so she's not there to bring up the children to cook or sew or clean. Whereas it was once a standard, it's no longer important anymore. We're into the fast food industry. We're into hiring other people to clean for us because either we're too busy or too lazy. So those 7 units are so important, and it's bringing the beauty back out of, to me, really being a woman. And
Exactly.
some women would look at that as being sexist. Well,
Right.
I'm not going to stay home and cook and clean and rear children, but it's actually our role in a spiritual role.
And I want to add to that. It's not that we are just born in the nation or we're in the nation to cook. I mean, we are independent women, but our first job, our first thing that we are to take care of is our home. And I think, you know, to sit your child in front of a television all day because you want to run the streets, or, you know, you're working and you don't have time, it has really taken the role off of what you are to do as a woman. I mean, there was times when people sat around the dinner table. Now we don't even sit around the dinner table. We sit in front of the television, you know, and that's unfortunate. You know, I ran into a young lady who was like 27. She goes, I don't cook. That just blew my mind. I don't cook. I was like, you know, what do you mean you don't cook? You know, and then, and so also, you know, we're taught how to heal our family so we could stay out of the medical facilities and taking, you know, medicine that we don't need. We're taught how to, you know, coordinate herbs and spices together, you know, to detoxify. If our husbands or our children come down with something, you can take it to your kitchen, because your kitchen is your healing facility. But, you know, I remember my grandmother got a couple of herbs and made a hot toddy, and you was good to go. Now it's like, let's go get some NyQuil. You know, so these 7 units are very, very important, you know, in our growth and development as black women in the Nation of Islam.
Let's run with that for a little bit. Because I always like to look at, you know, as to why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad would give you all those 7 units. I mean, what does that do in the building of a nation? You know, because he didn't call us the Organization of Islam or the Group of Islam. He called us the Nation of Islam. So why do you think he gave you all specifically those 7 units in trying to build that Nation of Islam?
Well, you know, brother, we in the Nation of Islam, we're taught to do for self. So just taking off on that point, if you know how to sew, you can create a business for self. You don't have to go out into the society, especially as a woman, looking for the scraps off of their table. You can create an industry of your own. If you know how to cook, you can go out and create your own business, open up a restaurant, cater. There's so many things that you can pull from that. Sister mentioned the creation of herbal remedies in our own kitchen. You can go into holistics from that part. You know, there's so many things that you can pull from those 7 units.
And those 7 units was to take us back to our original state as well.
Yes, ma'am.
We've been living off of fast foods, all kinds of toxins, but this is going back to basics. No adding, no subtracting, just the basics. And it's very simple. And so once you get the basics, you don't need to add anything else into you know, the mix. If they say flour, water, sugar, that's all they need, flour, water, and sugar. People think, I mean, one thing she did mention I thought was very important, because I remember growing up, the economics, learning how to sew in school. But then you know, a button came off of my son's shirt, and he was like, "Mom, can you put this button on?" I said, "Can you put the button on?" You know, not that I can't, but I want him to know how to put a button on, you know, as well as my daughter. Yes, both of my children, my daughter is 12 and my son is 14, they know how to cook a full course meal. And we're not talking microwave. I'm talking from scratch. They know how to cook a full course meal and have since they were 9 and 7. So, you know, when you make them independent, as you said, this also frees us up as a people to think creatively, to do big things that we think on a nation level. When we're boggled down with this job and that job and not eating right and not educating our children, and you have children out in the streets, and then, you know, you got hell. You know? Yes,
ma'am. Now mention the 7 units again. For the,
how to keep house, take care of our children, sew, cook, in general, how to act at home and abroad.
Yes, ma'am.
And I mean, I see in that, you know, just as you're mentioning it, that, you know, in my view, and of course in our view, the
don't forget about that one.
Take care of the husband.
Oh yeah, we need to do that.
The family, of course, is the building block of the nation,
yes,
and all of those units strengthen family. And so if the family is strong,
there you go,
then the nation is strong.
Yes, right.
And the nation is built, because if we don't have family, we don't have nation. We can just put that out of our mind. You know, we have to have individuals who are committed, then we have to have families who are committed, and then all those families together make up nation. So it makes perfect sense. Praise be to Allah. Now, question, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about Muslim women, especially Muslim women in the nation?
We don't have any rights, that we walk 5 paces behind our man, and we don't have any say. But that's one of the biggest misconceptions, that we're forced to cover when actually we choose to cover. Those are some of the things I came about. That's what I think.
That's it.
To me, you know, what I get a lot is people think we're a cult. You know, kind of like a Jim Jones kind of thing. You know, you gotta do this. One minute you go into the mosque and you're in street clothes, and like Sister mentioned, you come out covered up. You know, the women, they're strict, they're staunch, they're unapproachable. You know, you don't speak to me unless you speak to my husband first, but not so. We build off a sisterhood, and it doesn't, for me, it doesn't matter if you are nation, if you are Sunni, if you are Shiite, Orthodox, you still a Muslim. You still my sister. And I think that the division is made there because of the different sects of Islam. So the misconception also comes across as, well, which way do I go? Do I go this way? Do I go that way? You know, there's misconceptions about the messengers, so that makes some type of stipulation on how the women are unapproachable. So for me, I think the biggest thing is they believe we're more of a cult than anything.
All right, here's a question. This is kind of a heavy philosophical question. I did ask the sisters on the first Women in Islam installment the same question. Because Minister Farrakhan has said that the problem with the entire world is the mistreatment of the woman. Do you agree? If so, why?
I agree. And we're talking women in general, is that correct? It goes back to women being your first teachers, women being, you know, heaven lies at the foot of the woman. But as I said, the reason that most people are not successful, especially men and black men, is because they do not protect their women. They do not treat her right. Even in the animal kingdom, the male species protects the female. But because we have no men, and I'm not saying none, no, let me correct that. We have few men who are doing what they're supposed to do. And we have plenty that are in the making of becoming those men, of doing what they're supposed to do. Because I don't want it to get out that there's no good men there. There's plenty. They're all in the making. But because of the mentality of the man right now is not doing what he should do, He has lessened us, so we are not doing our jobs as women. We've lost all of our skills. We lost everything of what we should know, and again, we don't have any basics. And when you don't protect your woman, you refuse to protect your woman, then you put her out there to the wolves.
Right.
So therefore, everybody suffers, and the black family suffers, and before you know it, it'll be a distinction of who we are.